A week ago, the world got some dreadful news. The release date of the 25th James Bond film, No Time to Die, was delayed by 6 months. It had already been delayed by 7 months due to the coronavirus pandemic. Off the back of this new delay, the cinema chain Cineworld announced that they will be temporarily closing their UK cinemas for the next few months, putting over 5,000 jobs at risk. James Bond was supposed to be the saviour of British cinema. Instead, his absence, or his tardiness anyway at getting on screen, seems to be hastening its demise. I love James Bond films. I always have. When I was growing up, they would be on a television on a bank holiday, and my family would sit down together to watch it. We'd enjoy the mixture of car chases, thrilling plots, and camp violence. When I was a child, Bond was easy to understand. He was presented as an unashamedly good guy, and his enemies were always suitably evil. There was never anything complex. The baddies were going to either take over the world, kill everyone in the world, blackmail major governments, or make themselves fantastically wealthy through some other scheme. James Bond's job was to stop them. They were bad, he was good. They tried to kill him using ridiculously convoluted methods. They failed. He killed them with a Walther PPK pistol or a quite silly gadget followed by a withering put-down. The world of Bond was simple and easy for my childlike brain to understand. Except it wasn't simple. Instead, Bond films reflect an awful lot about their wider world. They switch and change their tone depending upon how the world feels about itself. The first few films' worldview is straightforward, as they were made at the height of the Cold War. The first film, Dr. No, was released the week before the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was the closest that the Soviet Union and the USA came to starting a global thermonuclear war. Dr. No is about an evil villain based in the Caribbean trying to provoke a war between the same two powers. A metaphor for Cuban leader Fidel Castro, perhaps. The film was hugely popular with the public, largely because it showed Bond, a plucky Brit, saving the world for democracy, and because it mirrored events going on in the world that the audience lived in. It mirrored them, but it made them safe. People didn't need to be scared about nuclear war when Bond was on the case. As the films moved into the 70s, the USSR and America entered a time of détente. This describes the period when the Cold War relaxed a little, and it didn't seem as if the great powers were going to annihilate each other. In the 1977 Bond film, The Spy Who Loved Me, Bond worked with a female Russian agent, and together they took down a supervillain who had planned to kill everyone in the world. I loved this film as a youth, largely because it had a car, a white Lotus Esprit that turned into a submarine. The next film, Moonraker, was set in space and was a response to Star Wars, which had taken the cinematic world by storm a few years earlier. Whatever was on the front page of the newspapers would shortly be seen by those going to watch a Bond movie. Bond took on drug lords in the 1989 film Licence to Kill, because the 1980s was very concerned about a rise in drug culture. In the late 90s, the world had moved on and was worried about the growing power of the media. To save the world again, Bond went to war against an evil media mogul in 1997's The World Is Not Enough, named after James Bond's family motto. Bond films tell us a lot about the geopolitics and economics of the world at the times that each film was released. Bond films do more, though, than tell us about international affairs. They tell us about the social attitudes of the world at the time that they were made. Over the last couple of years, I've rewatched nearly all the 24 films, and some of the things that Bond does in them took me aback. Many wonderful actors have appeared in Bond films and earned the title Bond Girls. Diana Rigg, Rosamund Pike and Halle Berry have all appeared opposite a James Bond. It is interesting, though, that even the phrase I just used to describe them, Bond Girls, defines these wonderful actors by their relationship to the male protagonist. It makes sense as a means of categorisation, yes, and it isn't dreadfully misogynistic, but it may be a little telling. The sexism in these films gets worse, though. In earlier films, women are essentially objects for James Bond to do with as he pleases. This is perhaps best seen in the 1964 film Goldfinger, where a female character, Jill Masterson, is stripped and painted all over with gold. She dies through suffocation of her skin. This apparently can't happen, but science hasn't always been important in Bond's world. The picture of this gold-painted, naked woman appeared on the poster for the film. It became iconic, but it objectified the female form. Bond himself, in earlier films, is violent towards a lot of entirely innocent women. In the film From Russia with Love, he violently assaults a Russian woman, Tatiana Romanova. This sort of behaviour carries on in a lot of films, with Bond threatening and sometimes carrying out violence against women. Women in earlier Bond films were there to be looked at, used and discarded. It says a lot about how the world of the 1960s viewed women that these sorts of behaviours, from a heroic character, were accepted without comment by audiences at the time. James Bond's sexual behaviour was equally dismissive of women. In the earlier films, they exist solely for his pleasure. Consent was an entirely alien concept to him. In Goldfinger, often held up as the best film, he forces himself upon a female character who tries to fight him off. He commits sexual assault. In 1965's Thunderball, he blackmails an unwilling nurse into having sex with him. These scenes wouldn't be filmed now, but that they were filmed then tells us what the people making movies thought about a woman's role and place in society. The attitudes towards race in some of the earlier films are equally troubling. It took until the 8th film, Live and Let Die, for there to be a black actor in a major role. Even then, though, the character they played was a crude stereotype of a black gangster who practiced voodoo, black magic. In 1967's You Only Live Twice, the screenplay for which was written by the author Roald Dahl, Bond disguises himself as a Japanese man by putting on spray tan, a bad wig and false eyelids, and apparently he's entirely convincing. He makes a dreadful joke about curry to an Indian character in 1983's Octopussy, and in 1974's The Man with the Golden Gun, he shares an exciting car chase with a racist sheriff who insults Thai people with pretty awful language that I shan't even repeat here. As society has changed, though, so has Bond. By the 90s, his now female boss, M, describes him as a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. He's now much less likely to engage in violence against women, sexual or otherwise, and he's certainly not racist, working alongside characters from all different sorts of backgrounds. There are still issues, but Daniel Craig's Bond is a far more modern Bond, who reflects the sort of society that most people going to the cinema want to see. The new Bond film, now delayed again, will apparently be the film that brings the character all the way into the 21st century. It's partly written by the talented Phoebe Waller-Bridge. It has a brilliant young black British actress, Lashana Lynch, playing a secret agent who is evidently Bond's equal, if the trailer's anything to go by. And it looks a lot of fun and much more fitting for 2020, or 2021 in fact, than any of the previous films. I can't wait to see it. Bond has moved with the times, and so must we all. I wonder though, what other than moving with the times we can learn from James Bond. Looking back through all the films as I've done with my sons over the last few years, I think that there are 4 lessons for life that we can all take from Mr. Bond. The first, dress well. Bond is always impeccably turned out. No matter where he pitches up, he's wearing the right clothes. You'll see him in a casino wearing an impeccably tailored dinner jacket and bow tie, always hand-tied, never pre-tied. Somewhere hot and sunny, and he's rocking a stylish linen suit. Clothes matter. Bond knows this. He's never flashy, but he commands a room when he walks into it precisely because he dresses appropriately. He dresses for the situation and as such controls that situation. You might want to think about that when it comes to your approach to school uniform. Lesson 2, persevere. Bond always finishes the mission, whatever it is and no matter how hard. Even if it involves going into outer space to get the baddie, he's on it. Even when he's lost the woman he loves, he gets on with the job in hand. He's a model for finishing what you start, and that's something everyone can learn from. If you do what you say you are going to do, people will trust you. Number 3, take risks. In 2006's Casino Royale, Bond gambles $40 million on a single hand of poker. Now, I don't advise this in terms of scale, but taking risks in life isn't a bad thing. Stepping outside of your comfort zone helps you to grow, and even when you get it wrong, which Bond rarely does, you'll still have learned something about yourself. Lesson 4. Keep calm and carry on. Bond never lets things fluster him. In Goldfinger, he is chained to a nuclear bomb about to go off, but he stays calm and reasons his way out of the situation. In GoldenEye, he is surrounded by Russian soldiers in a secret chemical weapons facility. He stays calm, works out a solution, and he escapes. That his solution involves diving a bike off a cliff, skydiving after a plane without wearing a parachute, and rescuing that plane from crashing into a mountain just makes it even cooler. When faced with a tricky test, a pile of homework, or a seemingly unbeatable foe on the sports field, what better than taking a leaf out of Bond's book and staying calm? Getting too stressed isn't going to help at all. Keeping calm, taking risks, persevering, all these things help you to grow as a person. I want to finish with a quote from the American poet Maya Angelou. It reminds me of James Bond, and it may help you when things get tough. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. It may even be necessary to encounter the defeat so that we can know who we are, so that we can see, oh, that happened, and I rose. I did get knocked down flat in front of the whole world, and I rose. I didn't run away. I rose right where I'd been knocked down. And then, that's how you get to know yourself. You say, I can get up. I have enough of life in me to make somebody jealous enough to want to knock me down. I have so much courage in me that I have the effrontery, the incredible gall to stand up. That's it. That's how you get to know who you are. Have a great day and a fabulous weekend. Thank you.